Hello again to another episode of Stories from the Edge of Life. We have a repeat guest, a very special Lisa White. Lisa,
Hello.
would you mind introducing yourself again to the audience and
Sure,
a little bit about your background?
sure. I'm Lisa White. I reside in the USA and I'm a social worker. I have been one, I guess since 1996. So a little bit shy of 20 years, right? Yeah. And I've always had an interest in people, observing people, and communicating. And so I was really glad to find this field because I've been able to hone my communication skills and develop my clinical skills and work with people to help them intervene. Uh, I've intervened to as they're trying to reach their goals. And so I've had an opportunity to be a palliative care social worker, and it has truly been rewarding.
Great. So it's very interesting you say it's very rewarding. There's a lot of people like myself, perhaps out of our ignorance, would think, hey, that's not a very uplifting career choice.
Mhm.
So why did you choose to become a social worker, and then why did you pick palliative care on top of that? Because you do see a lot of patients who are dealing with a lot of difficult circumstances, at least from a palliative care perspective, and a good number of times you're dealing with end of life situations or situations close to end of life.
Right. Okay. Well, I think I shared with you I come from a long line of talkers, and my father and I had a special relationship. We talked about everything, including people. And it was just really interesting to have those discussions with him about human nature and observing people, my mother as well. And so when it came time to pick a career, I had an opportunity in high school to study things like psychology and sociology. And when I got to college, I knew I was going to be a psych major. I had an aunt who became a social worker while I was growing up. And so she would share her experiences. And at some point, I said, culture is really important. And so I became an anthropology minor. Just getting to know people in the context of their culture was really important to me, made sense to me. And so I became a social worker. I've worked in a lot of different capacities with people addressing various issues: substance abuse, domestic violence, um, emotionally disturbed children in foster care, and also as a discharge planner, to name a few things. And through personal experience with end of life, I knew that it's so important when families and patients get support around chronic conditions and end of life, from my own experience. So um, I had an opportunity. I'd just been reading about um, caring for people with chronic conditions, and I saw that there was a position available. And I had an interview by phone, which is okay. And I was granted an in person interview, and I accepted it. And I appreciate having been considered, and also the mentorship that I was given um, through by my colleague who was a nurse practitioner in palliative care, and by my director, the physician, who was wonderful. So it is a hard job. It's a hard job, and but it's fantastic. It is such an honor to be a participant and a support for people who are having one of the most difficult times of their lives, you know, in terms of the person themselves, the patient themselves, and also their families. The decisions are hard, and the information is vast. I don't know if that's the correct word. It's a great deal of information to process, and it's emotionally overwhelming. So, having been on that side, the patient family side, I know what it feels like. And it's a lot better when you have some support navigating all of the whole process. So I find it to be, I have found it to be rewarding.
So I do appreciate on a personal note the very humbling sentiment that you just shared. Um, all I can say is I had the pleasure of working with you, and I actually learned a lot from you, and I still continue to do so. So thank you. For the sake of our audience,
Mhm,
you mentioned foster care
mhm.
because we have an international audience. They might not be familiar with what that is.
Okay,
Do you mind just elaborating that really briefly?
sure. Um, Not all parents are able to parent their children at given points in time because of their own issues or concerns. And so sometimes children are placed with other families temporarily while the parent is working on their own issues and concerns. And usually there are two tracks. One is family reunification, and the other is permanent placement, sometimes adoption with other families, to make sure that the best interests of the child are um, primary. And so oftentimes the children have experienced and witnessed harmful situations. And social workers intervene on a lot of different levels. And I worked doing in-home family therapy to support the children in their foster families. And I also worked on family reunification in terms of helping the parents with skills, develop skills, or further their skills with parenting.
Oh, I did not know about that part aspect of your career. So thanks for sharing.
Mhm,
The it seems like you've covered a very wide spectrum. You've dealt with children.
mhm,
When you're dealing with patients towards the end of life, they're usually quite often elderly. Not
mhm.
always, but often they are. So very broad spectrum. You've had a variety of experiences. Is there a common thread to go along with all those?
Um, it's an overgeneralization, but I say that people tend to be doing the best they can with the information and skills that they have, and that there are times when people need additional support. Um, right now, in general, in this country, there is a premium placed on independence, which is a beautiful thing. But that isn't historically how societies have functioned around the world. Interdependence is really important as well. And oftentimes people don't feel comfortable right now asking for help or acknowledging that they need it because it's seen as a deficit or a weakness to ask for help. But there are times when people need it. Not forever, but there are circumstances. So that's been the thread that has kind of connected all of my experiences. And ironically, I have been able to use different aspects of my experiences in different settings where I may not have expected to. So, for example, I could be working with a family doing discharge planning and domestic violence is an issue, or I could be working with a psychiatric population and end of life is an issue, coping with that, as well as things like depression or anxiety. So we're talking about a whole person and a whole community. And so finding the connections, that's the common thread is the human condition.
That's profound. Now, you did mention that the type of job you do can be very emotionally overwhelming, very emotionally charged situations. One of the things I've learned about you working with you over the years, you're a very positive person. So how do you cope with what you've done in the past in terms of working with such challenged individuals, and also what you did in palliative care?
Well, when you're in a helping profession, and I'll speak specifically for social work, one thing is self-care that's stressed a great deal among our colleagues. I've been to workshops about it, how to make sure that to nurture yourself and not and to be aware of things like secondary trauma. You're hearing someone else's trauma and it's affecting you. And so to be aware of that. So we're encouraged to take care of ourselves in a lot of different ways by making sure that our family life is good and that we're doing things that are positive for ourselves, and finding ways to decompress, finding being mindful of our surroundings, being present in the present moment, practicing things like developing practices like journaling and meditating, sitting by water, playing with our furry loved ones, and spending quality time with family and setting firm boundaries, kind of knowing where work stops and home life starts, which can be challenging. It's easier said than done. Taking breaks, taking vacations, all of those things help.
It's interesting that the first few things that you mentioned, very basic, right? Great. So with all the experiences that you've had over the years, what are some of the highlights in terms of what are the pearls that you've learned in terms of life in general?
Life is short. And whenever I see people with young children, I say, treasure those moments, treasure those times, because before you know it, they'll be asking for the car keys and they'll be graduating, walking down the aisle. So just kind of treasure those moments, even though they're hectic. I've learned that people are really resilient, and it's amazing what people come back from. It's amazing and inspiring to see all of the things that they are able to overcome. And having a balanced life, including things like a good social support, and meaningful work and um, meaningful volunteer opportunities, ways to express things that you're passionate about. Those are really important things to do because, some things aren't important, and just kind of figuring out what those are, what is and what isn't, makes a difference. And there's certain circumstances that make us pause, give us pause and make us consider, what's really meaningful. So those are little pearls I picked up.
When dealing with the end of life patients, what are some of the common things that they've shared with you in terms of what brings meaning to life, regrets that they wish, things they would have not done or done?
Well, I found that some people are content and are pleased with their lives and they recognize that it has to end and they look back and they say, I've had a good life. Uh, Other times people are not ready, particularly the younger patients. They just kind of feel like they would have had or should have had more time. And so they don't feel, there's like a feeling like they have, things haven't been completed. Um, so the lesson in that is you never know how much time you have. So value all of it. It's all valuable.
Standing. Now, clearly you have a lot of wisdom, but then we also get caught up with day-to-day life, right?
Yes.
So how do you remind yourself about things that you've just shared with us?
Well, that's a good question. Um, I don't know. I talk about this a lot. Back to mindfulness, and there are things like having having gratitude and making that part of a regular, if not daily, practice of recognizing things that you're grateful for. And the different ways you can do that. You can write it down. Um, One of my friends developed a gratitude blessings jar. You just write them down whenever you think about it and look at them later, review them at the end of the year. You can take time to do whatever gets you going. It could be communing with nature, just kind of reminding yourself all of the good things. It's very easy to get swept away in all of the daily chores, but it only takes 5-10 minutes to acknowledge some of the positives, saying positive affirmations. It only takes 5 or 10 minutes. So just getting into a practice of doing that. And that I'm a work in progress. Some days I forget to, but it's just kind of being in that mode, being in that mindset.
Now, if I recall, you did have a gratitude jar in your office.
Mhm.
Am I right?
I think so. I know I have one at home.
Right. So what are the kind of things one would find in your gratitude jar?
Sunshine. um, my parents, who are both deceased, my family members, my niece and nephews, um, just seeing birds, having an opportunity to go to the beach, just little things. I mean, they're big things too, but I think it has more to do with the people. I mean, I am grateful for material things. I can't pretend, but I, I'm grateful for experiences and things like, you know, the love for my parents that sustains me even now. And those are the most important things, really.
Great. Now, you did mention your father earlier on.
Mhm.
It seems like he had a profound impact on your life.
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit more about him and some of the things that, if he was sitting in your place, he would share with us.
Well, I'm a daddy's girl, even though he hasn't been here since I was 21. But just knowing that you are loved and cherished, and that you're protected, um, encouraged to be yourself, instilled with a sense of pride, those things are invaluable. And just loved, and knowing that someone cares about you that much, you can't quantify that. As they say in the commercial, it's priceless. So I am his daughter, and the values that he instilled in me are absolutely part of who I am. And he was a great man, and he influenced a lot of people in a positive way. And I even meet people now who knew him years and years ago when he was growing up that say, "Oh, I know your father. He was a good man. He was a smart man. He was a sharp dresser." I mean, all the little qualities that you can't measure, that make a person who they are. He had a quick wit and a big smile, and all of those things. Um, he's part of who I am, and I hope that I honor him, that my life honors his life.
Wow. And you mentioned your mother as well. Tell us a little bit about her.
She was beautiful, inside and out. And she too was an observer of people. And she's the one who taught me that you value someone when they share a confidence, you respect that. And that you honor a person despite what their role is. It doesn't matter what their job is. You see the value in the human standing before you, and that you can show respect for everyone despite their circumstance. And she knew how to care for me when I was sick. She would bring ginger ale and chicken soup, and rub Vicks on, you know. So she was absolutely nurturing. And I know that I get any nurturing that I give from her. So I'm a mama's girl too. So they sustain me. When the world gets rough and people are unkind and people don't always see my worth, I know that I was loved, and I know that I have some worth because they loved me. So I try to carry that on to people that I care about, and also to people who haven't experienced that themselves, you know.
Well, I think this is where we should end our session, because I think the audience, including myself, probably like to process some of the very profound things you shared with us. Um, and sometimes you can't find words to express what you're feeling.
Mhm,
So, but it's great to hear that you are a combination of your parents,
mhm,
and they continue to live through you.
mm. Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor.
All right, so honor is all mine. And I hope we will see you again down the
I hope
road.
so too.
Yeah, because there's a lot we all can learn from you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Barawaj.
All right, take
I
care.
appreciate you.
Likewise,
Thank
take
you.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Did you like this story? If so, please subscribe to this channel and like and share the video. Want more? Buy the book, Stories from the Edge of Life, available now on Amazon for more stories like this. All proceeds support Palliative Care Network, a nonprofit dedicated to alleviating suffering and improving the quality of life for patients facing end-of-life issues. Consider extending your contribution by donating through the link below. Thank you for your support.